everyone, and welcome back to a very special episode of Podcast of the Fallen. I am joined, as always, by my co-host Matt,
What's up?
and today we are joined by our very first guest ever on the podcast, representing the D in D&J's Epic Quest. We have Derek here with us today.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. I guess I didn't realize I was your first guest. I don't, I don't know what your guys' recording schedule is like. So what you have
Oh, yeah, you're our very first guest, so
released compared to where you're recording now. So, wow, thank you.
yeah, thank you so much. We know that you had to rearrange your schedule a bit to be able to make it on with us, and we really appreciate that. So
It's not a
thank
problem.
you.
It's always fun.
Yeah, I love talking with other people about Malazan. It's like my favorite thing. So
It's a good reason to start a podcast.
I think so, yeah. Speaking of, we kind of just wanted to start off by letting you kind of talk about your podcast, maybe how it got started and how you and Justin found Malazan, I guess.
Sure. So I feel bad Justin's not here because
Yeah, we need to have both of you on at some point for sure.
it's he provides a level of I think comedy for one that I probably just can't bring on my own, but he's also really good at picking up on details and stuff. But yeah, so Justin and I have known each other since middle school, since 7th grade. I think we're both a little older than you guys. We're in our mid 30s to late 30s. So we've known each other for quite a while. But he moved out of town, after we graduated high school and stuff. And we kind of reconnected over a Wheel of Time. He was getting close to finishing the books. We were getting excited about the TV show, and so I invited him down to my place to watch the TV show when season 1 dropped. But I had these books, these Malazan books, that I kind of just inherited from an old roommate that used to live with me, and he just moved out and left a bunch of stuff. So that's how I got them. And so they've been sitting on my bookshelf for years, and I'm like, you know what? He came down for Wheel of Time and I asked him if he wanted to read these things together, and he's like, I don't know anything about them. Like, I don't either. So he picked it up, and I'm like, well, we should start a podcast. And I didn't know shit about starting a podcast, how to run one or anything. And luckily, Justin's a pretty tech savvy guy. He works for a prep high school, basically.
Okay.
Doing that, dealing with their computers and network and whatever else. So he's definitely the tech guy for us, and he does a great job. Yeah, we just, we got started on Gardens, had no idea what to expect. And we've had a lot of fun. We do a chapter a week, or, whenever we record. Some of these, I don't know that we could do more than a chapter at a time. Right now we're working on chapter 5 of Memories of Ice. I don't know if you remember that particular chapter, Nathan, but it was 50 some pages, and there was I think he said there's 20 sections that we're summarizing within that.
Man.
So
Wow.
It's going to be a bear. I think we're going to record Tuesday for that. So I've still got a little bit of work to do, but on top of that, we also we're covering another book, Curse of the Fallen, and we got pretty lucky. The author, she's pretty awesome, and we have her on for every episode that we do, and we have a lot of fun. So it's just very cool. And then we've talked to Mr. Erickson one time, and somehow managed to get him to agree to come back when we finish Memories of Ice.
Awesome.
In another 8 or 9 months, whatever that's going to be. So
That's sweet.
yeah.
Your story of how you guys started the podcast is kind of similar to ours, because I've convinced Matt to read some things, and he was going to start Malazan because I've talked his ear off so much about it. And then he was about to start, and I texted him and said, hey, you want to do a podcast about it? And he was kind of like, sure, what the hell? Let's go for it.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to be starting school anyways. So if I want to finish the series, this will help me keep me on track then.
Kind of holds you accountable a little bit.
Yeah. Because I know there'll be so many times I'll be like, oh, yeah, I didn't get to that this week. I was busy. And in all reality, I was probably like scrolling Reddit or something instead of reading.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to listen to both of you. I mean, it's kind of, I think, a unique perspective because, I mean, Nate, you finished the series. Matt, I mean, we're a little bit ahead of you,
Mhm.
Justin and I, but you guys are going to overtake us pretty quick. But to listen to your experience, for the first time and kind of thinking back to like what we were thinking and what we talked about has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. I feel bad I haven't listened to you guys as much. I finally listened to, I think, most of one of your episodes. Was it, I think it was Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday? And it was kind of fun listening because like you guys haven't read it as well. So, and it was one of the sections, it was like, I think the prologue of book two. And it was interesting to hear some of the details you guys picked out because I was like, oh, totally forgot that happened there. But it was cool as well because, I mean, to hear your guys' perspective, like, we have no idea what's going on. What is this?
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I think a lot of the fun for us is just not, both of us not knowing what's
Mhm.
happening. And not that there's anything wrong with you, Nate, already, having read this. I'm sure it's a lot of fun going through it with your friend and who's going through it for the first time. But, we're both, Justin and I, going in blind is kind of a fun thing. And obviously we disagree on something sometimes. So,
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
imagine.
To the point, Matt, where I can't remember who got the pie in the face, but someone got a pie in the face for a bet that they made
that,
in
that,
Deadhouse Gates.
that was Justin. That was Justin. So I'm pretty proud of that because I'm glad I didn't have to take it in the face. So.
Well, both of you just decided you were gonna stick to your stance on that, and then
Yep.
it then it happened and you went through with it. So it's pretty good.
I don't know. Have you guys covered that part?
Uh
I
so
think
we
you're close.
yeah, so
Well,
we have covered that part. The bet was about whether the oh wait, no, we haven't covered that part yet. Never mind.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I think that's coming up in like the next few chapters or something. So
yeah, because
I'll
we just
leave
got
that.
to we just got to book four,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah,
book
we just
four.
finished up book three. So
Yeah, you guys are cruising for sure.
Yeah. When Nate mentioned you guys, I was like, are they really reading a chapter at a time? That like I feel like there's
Yeah.
some chapters where I was like, oh yeah, you can't just skip over that. There wasn't enough there. But then like you mentioned, there's some that are like 50 pages and there's so many things happening that I'm like, oh yeah, no, you could definitely spend a chapter just talking about that one at a time. But in terms of reading pace, I don't know if I could do a chapter at a time. I feel like that'd be too slow for
It's
me.
it's tough. I mean, I think it helps. I mean, we both have families and we have other things going on. It's
yeah,
it's for us.
Yeah.
It's about the right pace. It's about all we could really commit to. So
Which
well,
is still pretty cool because I mean, chapter at a time, you guys pull out so many neat details because you're kind of studying each one, which is pretty sweet.
yeah, I guess I don't know how you guys do it. I mean, we end up reading. Justin probably rereads each chapter more than I do. I read it, then I go back and I summarize my parts, and then I try to read it again after that. But I think with Justin's job, he's not that he has like, I don't want to call it like downtime, like he's a bum at his job or something, but it's more of a desk job where I don't have that opportunity. So
that makes sense. I haven't reread any of the things that we're doing. I just kind of summarize it as I'm reading. But we also have some downtime at our job occasionally, and I've read a lot of the series at work. So
nice,
Yeah. I
getting
mean,
paid to read.
it's nice.
it's so nice. Yeah, no, I when I read, I lately, I think it's partway through Gardens of the Moon, I started just keeping like some sticky notes in the back of the book to jot down just like certain quotes or sections I wanted to highlight because I don't have because since we read so much, I don't always have the time to go back through and read all those chapters again. But occasionally I'll
Sure.
reread like a section or two just to understand a little better because they're so strange sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. There's some things I read and I'm like, I don't know that I really understood that.
Yep.
There was a storyline in Deadhouse Gates that I think Justin understood quite a bit better than I did. So I relied on him pretty heavily for that part. And there were things that that I would get on it, but I think overall he just for whatever reason he just grasped it, and where I think kind of on the opposite end of things, like Justin kind of struggled visualizing the battles. And I know in your guys' I think last episode you released, you had the Graceless Passion video linked, and I know that really helped Justin, and I watched a few minutes of it. I just was busy, never got around to watching the whole thing. But I, I think for the most part, like I have an easier time visualizing that stuff in my head than he did. So that was just kind of the other end of things for
Hmm.
us. We each have our strengths, and
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
that's way cool.
Yeah. So I think speaking of chapter length earlier, Matt, at the end of Memories of Ice, we're definitely going to have an episode where we do just one chapter because I think chapter 25 is like 93 pages long of Memories of
yeah, we
Ice.
we looked at that to see. We've also been warned there's a chapter somewhere along in the series that's like 150 pages.
Yeah.
Um, we don't know what book it is or anything like that. So, but yeah, we looked at this one to see how many chapters were in the book, and we're like both looking at the end of the book and we're like, Jesus Christ, like where does this chapter start? Like, holy crap, we're gonna have to probably break that one up. We haven't had to do that yet, but I think that one we might have to break up into probably two parts, or I mean, I guess we'll see when we get
Yeah,
there how it reads. But
Yeah. That
yeah.
makes sense.
I mean, yeah, because like it went. I didn't realize how like before starting this podcast, like how much you can actually talk about per chapter. Because some of these chapters, like you can just talk for, I feel like hours on them sometimes about different parts. So definitely like that 150-page chapter. That's that'd be
yeah,
like 3 or 4 chapters some of these times, all in
yeah,
one
that's
go.
it's wild. I mean, like even just the our episode for the prologue of Memories of Ice was we had a guy from another podcast on, and I think we talked for 3 hours, and Justin edited it down to it was about 2.5 or so. But I mean, that was just the prologue. So
Well, not to spoil anything for Matt, but the prologue of Memories of Ice is wild.
I will say this. So like the prologue for the three books that we've read, like it just amps up each time. Like the
Really.
prologue for Deadhouse Gates compared to the prologue for Gardens of the Moon it's like 10, right?
Hmm.
And then I mean I felt like the prologue for Memories of Ice compared to the prologue for Deadhouse Gates is like a 21. It was like it blew my mind. And the prologue for Deadhouse Gates was so good, but this one I mean totally different, but it was that's all I can say.
Yeah, no, these prologues, I've been really impressed by Erickson and his writing because like this prologue at the beginning of this book, I remember reading it and just like kind of blew me away. I was like, that's an entrance. That's a way to start a series. That's a way to start this book.
Yeah, it was because I remember I read it before Justin. I'm pretty sure I read the prologue before Justin, and I texted him. I'm like, "Holy crap, Justin! Like, you need to read this like ASAP because it is so much different than Gardens of the Moon. Like, I did not see it coming at all."
Oh, I know. That like that jump from Gardens to this, I think I told Nate like multiple times at work and on the podcast, like the writing and just the technical ability, like through the roof immediately right off the bat. I was like, this is already so much better just on a technical standpoint. But then the story as well, I was like, this is I'm really liking this, how this is going.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I think I've heard a lot of people say it. You know that by the time you get done with the book, it's going to stick with you. It stuck with me,
Mhm.
you know, and we finished in like August ish, somewhere around there. Um, yeah, you'll think on it for a while, I think.
Yeah, I remember because there was that meme that went around recently. How often do you think about the Roman Empire? Someone kind of rephrased that on the subreddit and said, "How often do you think about the Malazan Empire?" And then
Oh, really?
I think one of the comments on that post, and I won't say exactly what they said because it would spoil some things from the end of the book, but someone said, I think the question should be, how often do you think about the end of Deadhouse Gates?
I mean, honestly, I think about that a hell of a lot more than I think about the Roman Empire. So,
I mean, Malazan has a much bigger impact on my life daily than the Roman Empire does. So,
and I mean, and you've read the whole series, so that's a pretty impactful statement. I can feel the same, and we're two books completed and partway into the third. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I definitely didn't think I'd be thinking about some of these storylines as much or just like some of these characters and their decisions, but I definitely think about it. Yeah, it sticks around.
yeah, Nate, I guess I don't know what your format you were thinking for today, but Matt, I guess I'm curious, maybe your favorite characters in Deadhouse Gates or favorite
Oh,
things that have happened so far.
yeah, no. We kind of want to just do that, just talk about some of our highlights of the series. But yeah, no, definitely.
Sure.
Because for me, so far, I want to make sure I get some of these names right for once. But I have really liked so far Dewicker, hands down, just like some of like his inner monologue and like reflection on the battles. Like, I've really thought was just like really deep philosophical, like historical thinking of just like, come from a historian. Like, I don't know how I'm trying to phrase this, but I really like that just because it's so cool. Like, there's been some quotes that we pulled out from, I think, just Dewicker's kind of sections specifically that are like really kind of deep and impactful, I think. And so I've really liked him because it's cool to see. I think I mentioned it the last episode that we just recorded. I don't know, one we haven't released yet, but just that Dewicker, it's cool to see because he's a veteran of war from like some of the first battles of the Empire to now like this imperial historian and like just this older guy surrounded by a bunch of younger warriors. So I think it's just really cool. I've really appreciated his perspective on this and like the fleeing of the refugees and just like his travels. So I've definitely liked Dewicker quite a bit this so far. And then I think I'm trying to think of who else that I really like. I've liked Kalam a lot in this compared to like Gardens of the Moon. I feel like we didn't get really like I feel like Gardens of the Moon was just kind of a brief overview of all the characters. Like we didn't get really know too many people in depth, and the people that we did died or their story was cut short in the book. Like Tattersail, we got to see a lot of her, and then all of a sudden it's just like she's gone, just out of the story. So I've really like seeing Kalam and just his progression and what he's been able to do, just like how he's traveled and what he's done to help people, and like just his perspective on combat as well, of being like a master assassin. Like how does he live with that? And I think that's been cool to see. But I don't know. That's so far kind of what I can think of off the top of my mind, what I've liked so far about Deadhouse Gates. But yeah.
What about you, Nate? I mean, I guess as far as how many times have you reread the series?
So the first time I read the series, to I made it through about a third of the way of book 8, and then I ended up having to stop because life happened. But then I've read all 10 books of Book of the Fallen twice. So this is my fourth time through 1 through 7, and then it'll be my third time for 8 through 10.
So how do you feel that this time is different going through this with Matt on his first time? Do you think you're picking up different things? Is it hitting you different?
That's a good question. I think I'm appreciating Dewicker's storyline more because Matt enjoys it so much. That hasn't Not that I've ever disliked Dewicker's storyline, but it's never been my favorite in Deadhouse Gates, and it might be my favorite this time through. I feel like I am latching on to Fellison more this time because, understandably, Matt gets annoyed with her sometimes because she's a brat. As Matt always says, she's a brat for understandable reasons, and
Yep.
so I've really enjoyed, not enjoyed because I feel bad saying that I enjoy her storyline in this book, but I liked reading Fellison, and I think Erickson portrays her and her trauma really well.
I agree. I think she was my favorite character out of the book. So I'm excited to see where it goes. I guess, Matt, do you kind of know the format of how the books are laid out? I don't know if Nate's explained that to you at all.
Um,
Like, I don't want to say, I don't want to, like, I don't know that would be a spoiler, but I don't want to say anything if you don't know. I would just leave that to you.
I think I explained it a bit in kind of our intro episode that we recorded, how the books like jump around, and so Memories of Ice we go back to Genebacus, and then House of Chains
Okay.
we come back to Seven Cities.
yeah, no,
Okay.
he explained that to me, I think a couple times, because even beforehand when I was like just looking into it, because you're like, well, this kind of like you want to read the first two or three books just to see how well you like it, because book one's kind of a hit or miss, and then for a lot of people, but then book two and three kind of like are really good portrayal of the series. But in terms of structure, I'm not too sure how Erickson kind of sets up his storylines, but I've been going in pretty blind with that.
I guess I just kind of meant like, yeah, so like book 1 and 3 is like the same, I guess, takes place in the same
Hmm.
continent or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think when Justin and I were reading Deadhouse Gates, we were both, I think, I don't know that I would say anxious, but we were looking forward to getting back to the characters that we knew. But I guess I don't think it bothered me too much that, we really didn't have, we had there's a couple characters from Deadhouse Gates that were in Gardens of the Moon, and that's basically about it. It really didn't bother me that much. I feel like I've seen, some people say they didn't like that as much, but now we're in book 3, and I'm kind of anxious to get back to Seven Cities and get back into that. So it's interesting how that just kind of evolves. But I definitely, I if you keep listening to our Deadhouse Gate stuff, I have a theory that I come up with relating to Fellison, and so I it's kind of the long game, I guess. But man, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but like I don't know. I'm really excited to see where Fellison goes and just how her story resolves.
Yeah. No, I know Nate had mentioned to me because I'm like, I can't stand Felicin. She is so annoying. Like, understandably so. But it's hard. It was just kind of buggy for me to read. But he's like, yeah, I think you'll be surprised about her storyline. I was like, I'm sure I will. I'm sure it'll be like a complete different thing than what I expect it to be. But I as well, I think I'm pretty excited to see where she ends up, especially after kind of ending off where we ended last time in our reading.
Yeah, because at the end of book 3, the black-haired girl and the old man come out of the storm, and I was kind of hoping that Matt wouldn't catch on that it was Fellison, but he caught on that it was Fellison.
Oh,
Yeah.
you did, because I did. I thought it was Apsalar, and I think if I remember right, I think Justin did too. But I thought it was because what was it Fellison and it was Fellison and Heberick that came out of the storm,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
And I was thinking, I think we both thought it was Apsalar and her father, or for that guy with her
yeah, it's
with
been
the
revealed that
hands
he's her
thing.
father.
Okay. I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit. Um, I didn't want to, like, maybe you wouldn't have caught it if you didn't know, but I was like, oh shit. Um, yeah, like I know they make mention of the hands, and so I was just thinking, okay, well, because he's got like a new hand and an old hand. Yeah. So then when we get to that, when we got the reveal, like it blew my mind. I was like, what? Like, okay, well now this makes a lot more sense. I should have seen that, but I didn't. So it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been one of the things that's been fun for me as I summarize. I'm like, what do I call attention to and what do I purposefully avoid so that Matt maybe doesn't catch on when I read the summary? Like in
Yeah.
Gardens of the Moon, there's a couple places where you could maybe catch on that Shadowthrone and Cotillion are Kellen Red and Dancer, and I purposefully left all of that stuff out of my summaries to give Matt the best chance of not catching on.
I would imagine that must be difficult on your side of things, like knowing that stuff, because that's something Justin and I definitely did not pick up on either. So
I think the
Yeah.
vast majority of people don't pick up on that because it's really well hidden in Gardens.
Yeah.
but
Because
I
oh no,
oh,
I
go
was
ahead.
just gonna say Nate. He mentioned when we were reading on Gardens with Sorry, he's like it was so hard for me to remember it's Sorry right now and not Absolar
Yes.
because like that's what he has in his mind is all like the future reveals of these character names and who they actually are. So I know he's put in some effort trying to restrain himself on that end.
Yeah, I would think that would be tough. And so like I know you kind of sent me a recap of where you guys were at, and I read through that, but that was the other day or whatever. So I'm just like, okay, I kind of got to remember what not to say, and sometimes it's hard to remember where exactly things take place. So
Yeah, for sure.
I get storylines like we'll be talking about what we thought of things. And I was like, well, then this happened. He's like, that was like next chapter. And I'm like, oh, because it keeps like the storylines just and everything. Because I forget each chapter occasionally have like 3 different of the story arcs, and then like the next chapter will like keep going with them. But one chapter will be like, here's this end section, here's this section, here's this section. Next chapter we pick up back there. There's so many times where I get those storylines confused and where everything actually happens.
I
And
think those were some of my favorite chapters when we got pieces from everybody's storyline going along. I
Hmm.
like those the best because then, especially when we're only reading one chapter, I'm like, okay, well, I want to know what Fellison's up to. Oh, well, she's not in this chapter at all. Well, that kind of sucks. So I always enjoyed that when we got everybody, or the vast majority of everybody.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's one of the things that makes this series so suitable for like a podcast is because Erickson is constantly jumping around and giving you updates on everyone. Whereas like I think for because I've read Wheel of Time 2 or 3 times as well. It was my favorite series before this one. And in Wheel of Time, I think for the most part, Robert Jordan keeps you in one character's perspective for the entire chapter, and then you kind of move on, or several chapters even. Like, I spend several chapters with Egwene, and then several chapters with Perrin, and so on.
Right. Or yeah, and then there's I don't remember which book it is, but I think like Perrin's not even in one of the
Yeah,
books. And then what like Rand isn't even in one of the books at all, hardly, if I remember right too. So it's just like well, like the main guy of the series isn't hardly in this book.
yeah,
Like this is the side novel. What is this?
Yeah.
no, I really like that about Malazan, because there's something like 435 different POVs throughout the 10 books.
Oh wow. Okay, so we're just scratching the surface then.
Yeah, it's a crazy amount. Lots of them are one-offs, but yeah, that's a lot of people to keep track of.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Well, that'll be fun.
Yeah,
That's so many. That's just impressive, I think. Like as I read some of these things, I'm like thinking, how are they keeping track of writing this? They must have like this amazing spreadsheet using their like they taking a class on Excel, trying to keep track of who's doing what and who's where and who are they writing for.
Yeah, I would think like as a writer that would have to be insanely difficult to like either you have it mapped out so well in your head, otherwise, yeah, I mean you'd have to keep really detailed notes, I imagine.
from what I've heard, because I've listened to quite a few conversations and interviews with Erickson, from what I've heard from him, it doesn't sound like he keeps a ton of notes. He says that he writes linearly, and so he doesn't write a character's storyline out of order with others. He writes the book from chapter 1 to 25 or whatever,
Oh, really?
and
Oh, that's
that's
interesting.
really impressive to me.
Yeah.
I hope you guys should reach out to him at some point then, because I mean I was really surprised. I felt like it was just a moonshot to reach out to him. I didn't expect to hear back, and but he did. So I imagine, from what we've been told since then, is he's very receptive to that type of stuff. But I was, I had not listened to really any of his other interviews or conversations just because I didn't want to, I guess, come across something that I didn't want to know yet. But just, I think, I mean, to write a book, you have to be a pretty smart person to begin with, just to be dedicated to do that, to go through the process and have things make sense. But man, like I was blown away talking to him. It was more than I think either of us expected in every way, which was awesome.
That's sweet.
Yeah, I definitely want to try to get him on. He's super open to talking about his writing process. But if you ask him about specific details, sometimes he'll say, I wrote this like 20 years ago, so I don't remember exactly what I was thinking, but here's my best guess.
I think we might have got one answer like that. Yeah, it's sometimes it's intimidating. I mean, because how many times has the guy been interviewed and stuff? And you're like, well, I hope I'm not asking the same questions he gets asked every single time. You want to try to come up with something new and that type of thing.
Yeah.
But he, I mean, we talked to him for like 2 hours, so I could not believe that one, he gave us that much time. And, it was, we never felt like rushed because we got to about the halfway point on our questions and that we had for him. And I'm like, man, okay, we've been talking for an hour. Like, how much more time is he going to give us? Like, when is he going to be like, all right, guys, this has been great, but I got, something else to go do. And it never happened. And super gracious. It was a lot of fun.
That's really cool. Yeah, I've purposely avoided a lot of looking stuff up of like any YouTube or podcast or the Reddit since starting the series because I'm like, I know I'll accidentally run into something that will spoil something. And so, yeah, I do need to go through and start listening to some other people like especially your podcast now just to see what you guys are picking out, maybe to help add to some of the theories I have, but to see what you guys think. But yeah, I've been avoiding
It,
a lot just to not run into anything.
it is hard to avoid. I mean, I had something spoiled for me in Deadhouse Gates. Justin just had something spoiled for him in Memories of Ice, though
Uh,
I wouldn't. It wasn't anything major. I wouldn't say it was on the same level as what I ran across, but and we've already had that resolved now in the chapter that we're reading. So,
okay. Yeah, because what you had spoiled for you was like the ending of the book, right?
I mean, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I've told Matt to avoid the subreddit and the wiki like the plague, and to just ask me any of the questions he has instead of looking
Yeah,
it up.
yeah.
I know. I don't know. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, as I said, like I'm not very active on Reddit, but I go on there every now and again to look at like the Malazan stuff. But like I got to make sure I only look at the stuff that's like Gardens of the Moon or Deadhouse Gates, or the stuff that says no spoilers, because yeah,
Yeah.
otherwise there's a pretty big risk there, I feel like.
That's one of my favorite things about finishing a series is that I can go on the subreddit and it feels like I unlocked a new level where I can look at everything now.
That's
No.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only time I ever used the wiki is when I was first looking into the series earlier this year. And it was just to find out how many books there were and the proper reading order. Because it doesn't say like Malazan book one, Malazan book two on the spines or anything or anywhere. It's just like the titles of the books. And so I was always like, wait, where's the actual starting point? Which one's which? So that's the only time I've ever looked at the wiki or really subreddit was just to find out the reading order. And since then, I was like, I can't be on here. I know I'll run into something that'll ruin like some major storyline.
How are you guys going to continue on? Are you just doing the Books of the Fallen then?
Um,
I
I'm
think
totally
so.
open to doing the other books if Matt is.
Oh yeah, I think we talked about one point to see if we get to the end of book 10, see where we feel about it, to read like the other
Well,
ones, right?
yeah, so we could either wait until after book 10, which is what I did the first time I read them, or there's actually a suggested reading order to intersperse Esselmont's books with Erickson's. And we could
Mm,
also follow that. And so the first Esselmont book is what we would read after Midnight Tides, which is book 5.
okay. Because is there's a bunch of how many like Erickson wrote some trilogies as well, didn't he, about this universe?
Yeah, there's like 15 other books.
I think we're gonna go through like once we finish Memories of Ice, I think we're gonna read Blood Follows is our plan. So we're gonna go a different route.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
uh that's some novellas about, you've probably met them in Memories of Ice already, right? About some characters
Yeah,
that are introduced in Memories of Ice.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
Just kind of some dark comedy novellas that are fun.
yeah. And they're pretty. I guess I don't know if there's like chapters in them or what, but I assume there is. But yeah, they're. I think probably 150 pages at most. Haven't really looked at it. We've Justin has all of them. I've got all of them, but the last one, which it seems to be the hardest one to find and the most expensive one to find. So,
Yeah, those ones can be hard to find. I have them in the two sets of like collections of 3 each.
oh, gotcha. Okay.
I think that's the hardest part about the series is because I like to go to like a bookstore to try and find my books if I can. Because I don't always trust some shipping because they'll damage some things. I've received a few books in the past that were pretty big beat up from the shipping. But trying to go to any bookstore near us, it's like impossible to find any Malazan book they need, minus maybe the last one or the first one. And if they're there, half the time they're kind of like bent or beat up for some reason. I think it's
So you guys are physical book readers also?
yeah,
Yes.
100%. I think that's the biggest bummer about Malazan is just there's not as many. It's not as accessible in terms of finding the books. I feel like sometimes, like physically, at least in my case. I don't know about y'all's experience, but
I think, I mean, yeah, it's like, I think probably like the main 10 are not as difficult to find, but I know
Yeah.
like even if I pop into Barnes and Noble, I might see like one or two of them there. But even like if I go to like a used bookshop, we've got one in town where I live, and I think I've seen Deadhouse Gates, and yeah, it was a little rough, but
yeah.
haven't really seen any of the other ones around.
I mean, I remember looking just to buy some of the books like initially, and I remember finding like some limited edition like hardcovers, like some special series, and it was like thousands of dollars for the whole set, I think, or something. It blew me
Oh,
away.
the subterranean ones.
I think
I'm
they were,
guessing
yeah. Yeah.
those are gorgeous.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would love like if I won the lottery, that would probably be the first like I don't know if you want to. I wouldn't call it like a stupid purchase, but like okay, I'm not paying bills, I'm not buying a house or a car. Like, what's the first thing you're buying? Like I'm dropping like 10 grand on that or whatever it costs.
Oh
Like I'm
yeah.
buying. But,
Like I'm buying these books.
Yeah.
yeah,
I find these special editions that I think are like 1,200 each.
yeah, man, it
Insane.
is wild seeing like the price of some of those books. It is nuts, and people buy them. So hey,
Yeah.
I guess more power to you.
Yeah. Because I mean, I was trying to see like if I could do hardcover because I like hardcover sometimes, like especially if I'm like trying to collect a set to put them on my bookshelf. But like all the old ones, like all the old print card covers, way out of my price range, it felt like. And they look so nice as well. Like some of the original covers I thought were really, really interesting, really cool looking.
Yeah, these mass market covers, lots of them are not my favorite.
Yeah.
Is that just like after reading the books then? Because I guess I mean I like looking at the cover art, but it's I don't think I guess I don't know. It's hard to say because I haven't finished the series, so I don't
That's
know if
true.
they're representative of the book. Because sometimes like yeah, you like reading a book and like okay, well when's this scene gonna play out that I'm seeing on the cover? And like
Mm.
some books, it's hard to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some of it is influenced by some of like finishing the book and realizing that some covers don't really fit the book, but also like Memories of Ice is just like generic soldier with shield. The Bone Hunters cover is like generic assassin in a black background, and I'm like, I feel like there could have been something a little more original from there.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I've told Nate a few times. I'm like, I think it'd be so cool to get like just like the mass market even, just like a whole like cohesive like spine set at least with like some new covers, like in just a box set of the first and just the 10 main books. I think that would be so cool to have because I don't know, I kind of just like collecting books in general, but it's kind of what I think would be sweet to have one of these days down the road if it's a possibility.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's the thing with Malazan is of the quote unquote pillars of modern fantasy. It's like the least well known and the least well sold. And so there's a market of Malazan fans that would absolutely buy a new set of covers, but it's not as big as, say, like Wheel of Time or Sanderson or something like that.
Which is wild to like know that because I mean Erickson's had to have sold millions of books by now, right? But it's just not as many millions as others.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's like I think Malazan has sold like 5 to 6 million copies from what I can remember. And then you've got Wheel of Time that sold like 50 million or whatever.
Well, then you got Brandon Sanderson with his, world record setting Kickstarter and is re-releasing some of the Mistborn books with brand new covers as well. So, I mean, I think it just kind of depends on some other things, but yeah,
Being in the right place at the right time is probably part of it.
Probably.
one day maybe. One day it'd be sweet.
Yeah. I guess maybe what else we wanted to talk about is maybe going back to not Deadhouse Gates. We're in Deadhouse Gates. Going back to Gardens of the Moon. Um, what have been some of your favorite moments from Gardens of the Moon that have stuck with you? And that's kind of a question for both of you guys.
Well, it's been probably better than a year since I've read that book, but
That's
uh,
true.
I mean the prologue just I remember that pretty vividly. Um, the Fett, and especially the duel.
Oh yeah.
I like,
Oh,
I like that. And then, like Raced and Animander, those moments were pretty cool. I don't know. I mean, I feel like there was a lot that happened in that book, but I guess those would be a couple just off the top of my head that I enjoyed. I don't know. I remember being introduced to Animander. I'm like, God, this guy's kind of a badass. Like he's got a cool name. He's like an 8 foot like tall guy, and like he's got this like huge sword that's like practically as big as he is. So that was cool.
I
yeah.
think go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, I was just saying, I 100% agree with Rake. Remember first reading him, I was like, this guy is legit. He is awesome. And then when we learned about his sword being like basically possessing a warren inside of it, blew me away. I was like, this is even better. I didn't think he'd get even cooler than he is. And then at the end of the book, he turns into a dragon. I was
Yeah.
like, what can this guy not do? He's awesome.
Yeah, Rake's development of Gardens of the Moon is really, really fun. Heard in interviews that Erickson tried to write from animator Rake's point of view at first, and then he realized there's no way I can like do this guy justice. Like tens or hundreds of thousands of years old, he's got like this amazing perspective on everything. I can't do his head justice, so he kept us outside of his head. And at first, you think he's like this super dark, evil lord on the mountain floating in the sky, and he's devastating thousands of people. And then you find out he's a pretty cool dude.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's another good point. Like, yeah, Moonspawn, you just like you're reading and you're like, okay, well, here's this city, and then there's this thing floating above it that's yeah. I don't know. I feel like just from where we progressed from book 1 to book 3, only a few chapters into book 3, we've learned a lot. And so it's kind of like, how the heck are there still 7 more books after this? So I don't know. It is a little bit maddening at times, only going one chapter at a time, because I know we both are just like, man, like we want to keep going and see what happens, but it's, I don't know, just slowing things down and just enjoying the ride.
It's kind of like you guys are watching like a series that's just being released a week at a time, and you're like back a few years ago when that's all you'd get, and but this series is gonna be 10 seasons long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Erickson has said that if he had no budget, the way he would do the series is 10 trilogies, a trilogy for each book.
Oh, geez. Wow. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah,
That'd
like
be a lot.
10 movie trilogies, or you'd have to have like the most expensive TV show of all time.
Oh, you're talking about like if
Yeah,
to
like if
adapt
you
it.
were if you were
Gotcha, okay.
adapting the books and had no budget. Yeah, I should have specified that. Sorry.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, that would be cool. And again, only having read, the first couple books, people are like, oh, well, it'd be like impossible to adapt. Well, I guess I've never made a movie, a TV show, but I think obviously I'm sure making any TV show or movie is challenging, but I think at least the first two would be doable. I mean, especially with, I mean, there's a lot of people, but there's not a lot of, I guess, like main characters. And I suppose you could probably cut some or, condense them down, but I feel like the Chain of Dogs would probably be doable
I
to
think
some capacity.
that would be an amazing like solo movie. I think like standalone that would work really well.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I guess I'd be the one, like, I want to see things like live action, and obviously that's more expensive and time consuming and everything. But yeah, I don't know that we'll ever see that. But
I
it
don't
would be
know.
cool.
AI may be able to make it for us. That'd be kind of sweet.
Maybe,
But
yeah, I don't know.
no, well, I mean, it reminds me of when people are like, "Oh, you can't adapt Dune into a movie." And I remember after reading the book, I was like, "Oh yeah, I don't know how they're adapting this." But watching the first part of it, I was like, "Oh, they did a really good job. They portrayed kind of the main idea of the story, I feel like, really well." So I think it would be doable, but it would be kind of along those same lines of how they did Dune. You need to write the right director and just have to trust them that they can get the main idea of the story through, and probably have to change some things just because it's a movie. You can't really do all that the books are portraying.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Wheel of Time show. If you guys have watched that, I mean, they've changed a lot from the books, but I think the spirit of the story is still there. I mean, I think given the scope of that series, they've done a pretty good job with getting it done.
Yeah, I've seen the first season and I was kind of in the middle on it, but I've heard the second season is better. So I still need to go watch that and see how I feel about the second season.
I did like it quite a bit more than the first season. My first watch through of it, I've watched the first like 4 episodes twice, and then the last 4 once. But the first episode of season 2, I did not like my first time through. I'm like, and then when I watched it a second time, I'm like, well, I guess I don't know why I didn't like it.
Okay.
But yeah, it was the one thing that kind of bothers me. I guess my only complaint I would have about it would be like the Murdral are like, they look great, I think, on the show, but they're not as like, I don't think they're as like wicked or strong as they are portrayed in the books. Because I mean, there's a moment in the second season I'm like, okay, like, well, that would never happen in the books, but I mean, it was pretty minor.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because in the books, if you can take one down, you're like a super badass.
Yeah. And I guess, I mean, yeah, people do take them out in the books, but just like the way it was done,
Yeah.
like, all right, like, again, it's not going to be a perfect adaptation. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle on adapting Malazan. Like, I don't know if I want it to them to try to adapt it, but if it ever came along, I know I would immediately get super excited for it.
Yeah. So I've been wondering then, I guess this is
Yeah.
gonna be more for Matt, but
Mhm.
um I guess what are your predictions where Deadhouse Gates is going? What's gonna happen?
I after reading Gardens of the Moon, my I'm just kind of like I'm just gonna buckle in and see where this goes. Because any thought I had in Guard of the Moon, I feel like got derailed a little bit every single time. Like thinking back to the whole raced battle, it was kind of just like, here's a super powerful being, but we're more powerful. Like I think it showed power scaling and really well in that personally. But no, this I'm my only thoughts are just like they're the whole chain of dogs, they're somehow gonna group up or make it to a certain point and kind of hold their ground and meet up with someone else, I think. I'm curious to see where Apsalar and her dad and like Fiddler and Crocus and their kind of story converge. Because I think they may meet up with the whole Shaik storyline still. I think that's like where it's headed, and I think that's where it's gonna keep going. Because I'm curious to see what Ikariam and Mappo do with them. And I think Ikariam as well, something will happen where like this is how I've been feeling. I think there'll be a rift between Mappo and Ikariam at one point. I mean, it feels kind of like a minor story arc, but I've thought about it a bit just because Ikariam's trying to regain memories, and I think once he does, there may be a bit of a rift between him and Mappo, and something will happen there. But then Fellis and Heberick, I don't really know, but I know some crazy's gonna happen with them, and Fellison's gonna be a key player from here on out, I think, in the world of Malazan. But it's kind of what I've been thinking a little bit. Nothing too fleshed out so far, but just from what I've seen where the story's going. But
Agree with all that, Nate?
I mean, I'll say those are good and fun predictions. I'm not going to confirm or deny anything that you just said,
Right.
yeah,
but
yeah. No, it's kind of the same scenario with me watching the Attack on Titan anime with my friend. He's like, "So what's your theories?" I'll neither confirm or deny any of that, but those are fun theories. Good job. But no, I think I'm curious to see how this ends because I mean, knowing that we're going back to Genabacchus in book 3, I'm just wondering like how he's going to end it in a way. I'm so sure it's like a nice cliffhanger of sorts of like this is kind of where we're at, but we'll come back to it. I'm still curious. Oh, and then Kalam, I totally forgot about that for a moment. I have no idea what's going to happen with him because he just randomly disappears. But I think him and what's her name that's gonna be an interesting
uh,
love arc if that is
Manala.
a thing.
Manala.
Yeah, Manala.
I don't even know if I remember what happens at the end of the book with Kalam. It's kind of
Well,
eluding me right now, but
this might spark it for you. Kalam is still on his mission to kill the Empress.
oh, okay. I think, yeah, I got you. I will say the end of the book made me very mad in one specific part. Um, Nate probably
Yeah,
understands it, but I was pretty mad. Like, oh man. So certainly a journey.
Yeah.
yeah. I You were mad more at a situation or a character more than you were mad at like how the story went. I think.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Not how. Yeah. Yes. Decisions that were made or not made.
Yep. I love having to talk super vaguely around things. Decisions that were made or not made. That's good and fun, but will it happen? Who knows? Raffo.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, how many? Where are you guys at in the book? Like, how many pages do you have left? You're
Uh,
halfway or better.
Yeah,
we
so
are
we're on
like this.
542 and
Oh,
the
that
book
helps.
is 836. So we've still got like 300 pages and we've got 10 chapters left plus the epilogue.
So that's probably another like 3, 4 episodes for you guys.
3 or 4 I think. I still need to go through and
Hmm.
figure out where we're going to kind of cut off each episode and but yeah, probably 3 or 4 episodes.
That'll be fun to listen to. I'm excited to see how you feel at the end of it, and then yeah,
I'm
you guys will blow past us pretty quick.
after all those vague comments, I'm definitely curious now.
Well, that was the point.
Well, it's like learning a language all over again. It's like I don't understand anything that's going on, but one day I hope to understand.
You'll understand. You'll understand. I would imagine the feelings I had were probably pretty universal
Yeah,
throughout the community. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And I love Matt. I think Matt kind of, when I was telling him at the end of Gardens of the Moon, like, just you wait, like, Deadhouse Gates is so much better than Gardens of the Moon. I think there was a little hesitation on his part to kind of like fully believe that. And then as soon as we started Deadhouse Gates, he was like, okay, you were right. And then the fact that there's 8 more books after Deadhouse Gates.
No, when he's like, "Oh, it's so much better," and I was like, "Well, Gardens wasn't that bad. Like, it was a solid book. Like, I mean, there's a lot of parts I was like, technically speaking, I was like, I feel like it could have been fleshed out a little more, could have been told a little better. So I was like, how much better could it be? Like, what does it mean to be like miles better?" And so I started reading. I was like, "Oh, never mind. Yeah, no, that's way better. I have no idea where the series is going now." Yep.
what is, I guess, without really, you're not probably not gonna be able to spoil anything, but which book is your least favorite out of the 10, Nate?
It's probably Gardens.
Okay.
And I think Deadhouse Gates ranks probably fifth or sixth in the series for me. And I
Wow.
still love it to death. So
What's your favorite book? I don't remember.
see, because Derek had asked me this over Discord a few weeks back, and I think I said something like, "Well, now you've asked the impossible question." Um, but the answer that I most often give is book 6, but also book 3 or book 10. So Memories of Ice or Bone Hunters is book 6, or The Crippled God. Any of those 3, I think, would be my answer on any given day if you asked me.
Okay.
But also, the last time I read Toll the Hounds book 8, it jumped up into that conversation for me as well. So
I think when we asked Mr. Erickson which his favorite was, and I think it was like a 1A and a 1B type thing, but it was Toll the Hounds and The Crippled God is what he told us.
that makes sense, just based on things that I know about him and writing Toll the Hounds and The Crippled God that I've heard in interviews and things. That makes sense. Yeah, I don't think that we have too much more to talk about, and we don't want to keep you too long. Um, is there anything else that you wanted to kind of ask us about?
Um, I think maybe you had told me, but you guys were going to talk with Mora and Lee at some point.
Yeah, so um, I don't think Matt actually knows their names, but Mora and Lee are 2 other podcasters, and I think the plan is to have them on for kind of an episode like this at the ending of Deadhouse Gates. So
Oh
They're
yeah.
they're awesome. They're a lot of fun. Love them to death.
yeah,
They're
I go
yeah,
ahead.
they're a lot of fun. Oh, just they're kind of I think the first like podcasting friends that we had made. And I think at some point, I don't remember the order, but once we finish the second or third book in Memories of Ice, we were going to have them on also. But yeah, they're a ton of fun. Lee has a ton of knowledge. I don't know if you know him through like Reddit and stuff too, but
Yeah,
how much you've interacted with him. But yeah, he's a lot of fun to talk to, and Maura's a lot of fun to talk to also.
yeah. I actually I was on an episode of their podcast, and we just kind of went through the 10 books of the Fallen and talked about our favorite characters in
Oh
each
yeah,
book. Lee is like, he's a goddamn Malazan encyclopedia. Like just
yeah.
hearing him talk about the series and how he's able to remember phrases and scenes and then search them up on this website, Search of the Fallen, and that's how he quotes it so easily on Reddit and stuff like
Okay.
that. It's crazy. But yeah, we were gonna have them on after we finished book 2 of Deadhouse Gates, and then schedules just didn't quite work out. And Mora said it's probably better if you have us on at the end of the book, because I think we accidentally spoiled something for Derek and Justin when we went on.
I mean, I think I don't remember. I mean, if they did, I think it snuck past both of us because I don't remember feeling spoiled for anything on it. So, but yeah, I mean, on top of that, I mean, I think Mora was like a 10.5 hour time difference from us. So an 11.5 hour time difference for you guys. And then I think Lee was like 8. So yeah, kind of coordinating that schedule was, I mean, about the only time it is going to work. I mean, for us was a weekend, in
Yeah.
the morning, and then it's late there for them. But I mean, they were both so willing to just, even if it's late, to just do it and have fun. So whenever we talk to them, it's a lot of fun. So I know you guys will enjoy them, and obviously you've talked to them already, but I think Matt, you'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. I remember going on and Maura apologized that it was so early in the morning on a Saturday for me. And I was like, no, 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 no. It's like 11:30 at night for you. Like this is fine.
Yeah, they're a good time for sure. I think everybody in the community has been really good. I I don't think we've had any negative feelings, backlash. I'm not even sure the right word I'm looking for there, but no negativity at all. I mean, the one spoiler I ran across was just me scrolling through Facebook on a science fiction fantasy Facebook page, and I just happened to stop at the right time. And
Yeah.
I think the one that Justin ran across was somebody commented on the video on YouTube that he put up, one of our
Oh,
episodes on YouTube, and I think there was nothing malicious. It was just whatever. So
yeah. See, once again, Matt's not logged into the YouTube channel for that reason, so that
oh,
nothing
gotcha.
accidentally
Yep.
gets spoiled. Not we
Yeah.
haven't had too many comments yet, and none of them have been spoilery, but
So that's why I'm not very active so far in the online realm too much. I'm trying
Yeah,
to
just keep
avoid
the
it all.
blinders on. Keep the
Yeah.
blinders on, and you'll be all right.
yeah,
And
that's
afterwards
totally
I'll
fine.
be like what Nate said, I'll unlock the new level and I'll be able to explore the new world of fan theories and other things.
Oh, yeah, there's plenty of other theories to come. Theories that there's stuff that's unresolved when you finish the series that we still have theories about. So
Oh, okay.
maybe I shouldn't have said that, but
No, that's fine. I
yeah.
don't think that doesn't spoil anything. It's just
No?
leaves room for interpretation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're hoping that some of them get addressed in some of the prequel and spin-off stuff, but some of them still have not been addressed, so that's really fun.
Sure.
That's sweet.
Yeah. I think it not to spoil anything, but it's similar to how there's a couple things in the ending of Wheel of Time that still have been unconfirmed either way because it was just the ending that Robert Jordan wrote, and so Sanderson wrote it that way, and some of the things he's not even sure of how it happened or worked.
Oh, like Matt, have you read Wheel of Time?
Not yet.
Okay, then I won't say anything. I could take a guess at what you're talking about, but I won't say anything then.
One of these days I'll have the time. I tried to do it over the summer when we started this, but yeah, I think I read maybe the first couple chapters. That's as far as I got. Because I have the first 3 books just sitting on my shelf still.
Hey, maybe after
The first,
Malazan, we can do a Wheel of Time podcast.
there you go. The
Another-
first one is definitely a cozy, like feeling book. Like it holds a special place in my heart. I really enjoyed 4 and 5 a lot, and then I think 10 was probably the worst book in my opinion.
Yeah, 10 is rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if we want to do Wheel of Time, I feel like that'll be like a decade of recording.
I mean, Wheel of Time isn't as dense as Malazan, so I think we could do like 4 or 5 chapters a week with Wheel of Time.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
think
true.
that would be an issue.
I mean, there's some pretty meaty chapters in those books too.
Yeah, well, I think I told Matt once there's a chapter in the last book, A Memory of Light, that's longer than Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah. And one of the books has a prologue that's like 100 pages. I don't remember which book that was. Maybe that's Lord of Chaos. I don't remember. But one of them, yeah, it's
I
like
think
a
it might
legit
be.
100-page prologue.
That's insane.
Yep. And of course, the first time I read it, I refused to go and look at how long the prologue was. So I just kept on reading. And I think I read that prologue till like 1 or 1:30 in the morning.
You're like, why did I do this? I just want it to end.
Yeah, it was really fun. But
Maybe, I guess, doesn't have to be the last question, but it just kind of popped into my head. What else are you guys reading right now besides Malazan? If you're reading anything else.
Well, Nate, you can share. I have to find it.
okay. Yeah,
But
I think it's somewhere around here in my cluttered room. But I've actually read a couple of things as we've been going through this. I read American Gods by Neil Gaiman for the first time. which is kind of more of an urban fantasy book, and it was really good. And then I am about 120-ish pages into the second book of R. Scott Baker's Second Apocalypse series, which is Erickson actually has a blurb on the cover of both books for it so far, talking about how
Oh,
great it is. It's been really good so far. It's more grimdark than Malazan is, but it's been really good. It's about a fantasy, fictional, magical holy war, which is fun to read about.
oh, I have the books. I haven't gotten to them yet, but I have. Is that the first trilogy or the second one? Because there's two trilogies there, right?
Yeah, there's two series. I think they might all be under the umbrella of the Second Apocalypse, but the first trilogy is called The Prince of Nothing, I think.
Okay, I think I've got all three of those, and then I've got maybe the second series is four books. I've got the first two for that, but those are hard to find too,
Yeah,
or I'm
it
having a hard time finding them.
I had to I ended up having to resort to buy each one separately on Amazon. There wasn't like a box deal or anything like that, so I had to buy all 7 books individually, and they came in like 5 different packages.
Awesome, gotta love that.
Yep, so much fun.
Yeah. I haven't had too much time because of school. My one of my classes is taking way too much of my time, but because I've been learning Japanese, I've been reading a little bit of manga, but the one I've been reading just kind of like a historical like overview of Japan as well because I'm taking a Japanese class. That was just more for fun. But when school ends, I plan on reading can't remember what series it was, but I have a few like old Star Wars Legends books on my shelves that I want to start reading through. And then maybe because I want to, I think next year I'll try and read them. It's the Jade something series. Nate had read them earlier and they looked really good.
Oh
Um,
yeah, Fonda Lee's Greenbone Saga. It's
Greenbone Saga.
a
That's right.
trilogy of urban fantasy that are
Yeah.
it's it's honestly probably a top 5 series that I've ever read. It's really good.
Hmm. I've heard of
So
it, but I haven't. Don't know anything about it.
I don't know too much either. I just see Nate reading like a new book every other week at work. I'm like, how's that one?
I
And so that's another one on my list. But yeah, as of right now, I'm not reading too much besides Malazan. I'm just kind of reading, like I said, history of, Japan. And then hopefully I'll start getting back into some other fantasy series and other sci-fi series because I want to read like Isaac's Asimov, I think his name is, like his Foundation series. I have that first book. But it's more of on the shelf what I plan on reading next. Take it a little bit more
Sure.
time.
The TV show for that was really good. I didn't see all the second season yet, but the first season I thought was really good. I haven't read the books, but I
Yeah,
enjoyed the TV show.
Fred is really good.
Yeah, I finally stopped because as a kid I found a series that I liked and then I would reread it like 3 or 4 times. So I'm trying to expand my fantasy catalog, and I never thought I'd be the guy that has a dozen unread books on his shelf, but I'm slowly becoming that guy that has way too many books to fit on my bookshelf and
Oh man,
way too little time
maybe
to read everything I want.
maybe I'll send you a picture of my bookshelves, but yeah, it's probably like 80% have not read yet.
I've read most of the stuff on there, but I have to restrain myself from not buying like 5 series that I want to read.
The struggle is
Yeah,
real. Yeah, I get it.
100%.
Yeah, I'll send you a message on Discord with my bookshelves, and then you can send it to Matt if you want.
Awesome. Have you been reading anything besides Malazan and Curse of the Fallen?
I am just about done reading the second book of the Hellborn King saga. It's called the Wrathbringer. It's an indie book. His author's name is Christopher Brenning, and he lives in Wisconsin, so he's not terribly far, but it's definitely a grimdark series. But I would say the second book is less grimdark, but it's definitely got its moments. Probably not as much action as the first book, but definitely still enough to keep me interested and wondering where it's going. I've got 150 pages or so left of it. I think he's working on the third book now. So
Awesome.
yeah, I'm almost done with that.
Well, sweet.
And I don't have anything else I can think of right now.
No, I love because Matt and I have these pauses too where we're like searching for stuff, and I love editing down the podcast, editing those down for the podcast episode. But yeah, if there's nothing else, I just want to say thank you again to Derek for coming on. It's honestly amazing that you were willing to rearrange your schedule to come be on our little podcast. So thank you so much for being our first guest.
Absolutely, yeah. It was a lot of fun, and I'm glad I could do it. And I think once you guys eclipse us in Memories of Ice, we'll have to have you guys both on it at some point. Maybe it'll work out. We when we hit the same chapter, maybe we can have you guys both on. That'd be fun.
Yeah,
That'd be a lot
that
of
would be
fun.
great.
So we'll have to keep in touch about that when you guys start, and where we're at. So we've got. I think Justin's going to be dropping a Curse of the Fallen episode next. So we've got. I think we. Gosh. I think we have chapter 3 released for Memories of Ice, and then he's got chapter 4 in the bank, and then we're going to be doing 5 next week.
Okay.
And then 6, and then November 4th, we'll be recording with DLC Book Club on the first subbook of Memories of Ice. So we've got a little bit of a schedule we got to adhere to make sure we get to that point on time. So
Yeah, I've been listening to because their episode just so happens to come out on a day when I'm kind of in the back at work and I don't have to talk to people. So I've just been listening to their episodes on those days, and they're really fun.
I watched one episode from them. I'm not too big on like just sitting there watching things on YouTube, and I don't think they really have it on like Apple or anything where I could just listen to it that way,
Yeah, I
or
think it's
Google or
just
whatever.
YouTube.
So yeah, I'm not super familiar with their stuff, but I think we'll have a good time.
Yeah, Lana, the woman on the podcast, has already gotten a reputation as kind of the predictor. Some of the stuff she's gotten right, I'm like, you did not just predict that like 300 pages before it happens without
Oh,
most of the
really?
info. Yeah, some of the stuff she's predicted has been insane. So
I would say, I mean, in these first few chapters of Memories of Ice, I don't. I feel like it's been a lot of like setup type stuff. So I don't know. I think things will probably kick off here pretty quick, and I don't know what kind of roller coaster ride we'll be in for, but I imagine it's going to come up quick.
yep, I think you're. I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to spoil anything.
That's the safest bet.
Yep. Well, yeah, just thank you again for coming on. This has been super fun. We didn't really have too much of a format, and we just kind of wanted to let the conversation flow. So if it was a little rambly, I apologize to listeners, but I think it was still a good listen and a good chat.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it
I
was
think
fun.
that's the best way to do it. So just it keeps it natural and honest, and it's a good time. I had a lot of fun. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for
Yeah.
joining us.
Anytime.
Yeah, I think we'll be dropping this episode the same time that we drop the finale of book 3.
Oh, awesome. All
Hopefully,
right.
people stuck around for both episodes.
I'll listen to them. I've listened to all your guys' stuff. So
Awesome.
Sweet, sweet. Yeah, I'll listen to your guys' stuff now that I like know a little bit more about it.
it's always fun to put a face to a voice. So it
Yeah,
was good to meet both of you and actually get to talk to you.
Yeah, really good to meet you too. So thank you so much. And listeners, we will see you next week.